Hebrew History and Prophetic Books 11. The Administration of Nehemiah, AM 3545 to 3547, 446 to 434 BCE, between the period embraced in the last lesson and the beginning of the present, there is an interim of about 10 or 12 years. The main topic of the treatise of Nehemiah is the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. Connected with this is an account of the bitter opposition of the Samaritans and the neighboring tribes, and of the moral disorders prevailing among the Jews. The Babylonian captivity appears to have entirely cured the nation of its idolatrous proclivities. The evil tendency was now to amalgamate with the tribe surrounding them, and thus by intermarriage to obliterate the distinct and peculiar Jewish nationality. The chosen people would have been thus reduced to conditions of the mongrel tribes now inhabiting the old Israelitish territory at the north of them, and the idea of a theocratic government would have been done away. So, actually, Semitic is sort of the mixed people, so they use this term mongrel for mixed race, like the Persians and the Arabs. But the brown skin, the black woolly hair, and not quite fully African in features, that's what the Semitic people were. All these people you hear in the Bible, that's kind of insulting to call them like that. And intermarriage, while not something to force, it's not something to do away with. Now, the thing that was forbidden was the marriage with a polytheist. So a Jew can't marry a Christian or somebody who follows the biblical religion or tries to recover it from its Jewish, guys. They can't marry a polytheist either, even if they are a Christian. It appears to have been the divine intention. Well, it's considered a sin. Not so much now to restore the political independence of the Jews as to preserve the pure national stock with their religious economy intact, as a continuance of that preparation for the coming of the Messiah which had been going on from the beginning. It was with this motive that both Ezra and Nehemiah exerted themselves so strenuously against the admission of aliens and the intermarriage with Gentiles. And the word Gentile, it's just not, you have a different religion. Gentile is the words like polytheist and witch and stuff like that. To this end, it was necessary to make Jerusalem the religious capital of the race, and to both rebuild the temple and fortify the city with walls. The period of the present lesson covers only about 12 years and concludes from the sacred annals of the Jewish people. After this time, as we learn from secular history, the Jews were still subject to the Persian Empire until the conquest of Alexander about a century later, when they came under his dominion. After the breaking up of his empire, it fell by turns under the sway of the Seleucian kings of Syria and the Egyptian Ptolemies. There were various revolts and attempts at independence. In one of these, the Jews were conquered by Antiochus the Great, and subsequently by Antiochus Epiphanes, who committed various acts of abominable cruelty. After this came a heroic period in which the Maccabean or Asmonaean family flourished and performed extraordinary exploits, achieving for a brief period actual independence and some national prosperity. About 63 BCE, Judea became a Roman province. 20 years later, Herod was made king. Though his kingdom was tributary to the Romans, it was under this king that the advent of whom people consider a savior took place, against all biblical teachings about there not being such a savior, that God, there's no God before, no God after, no God beside, no Lord, no Savior. But these are, that those were rules for God, not, but Nehemiah's mission to Jerusalem and administration of the government there was under the reign of the Persian king Artaxerxes Longimanus. It was about the time of King Kinatus and the Decemviri in Rome. Cincinnatus and Decemviri in Rome. It was at the time of the Grecian civilization when Pericles yet ruled at Athens, the time of Socrates and the greatest of philosophers of Euripides and Aristophanes, great dramaticists of Phidias, the noted painter, and Thucydides, the historian. It was also the period of the Peloponnesian War. I don't remember the Greek characters for a lot of these, so that's why I'm stumbling at times. But remember that the New Testament puts forward this claim that not only these things are similitudes, so that's how they're able to justify their Christian belief as somehow not being against what they call the Old Testament, but philosophy is, there's a couple places that make clear that in Christianity, philosophy is banned. So why are they looking up to philosophers in this book? I don't know. What important personage now appears in the Jewish history? Where was he? And in what situation? Nehemiah 1 through 11, 2, 1. How long was this after the events of the last lesson? See the introduction. What report came to Nehemiah concerning matters in Judea? Nehemiah 1 through 3. What was the effect upon him? What did he do? 4 through 11. Nehemiah's communication with the king and its result. 1 through 8. What occurred on the journey? Verses 9 through 10. What survey did he make? And what did he ascertain? Verses 12 through 16. What did he counsel the people to do? How did the enterprise affect their hostile neighbors? Verses 17 through 20. What impression does the account of the workers and the division of labor give you of the general interest in the cause? Chapter 3. What hostilities and opposition were incurred, give an account of the measures resorted to by enemies and the precautions taken. 4, 1 through 23. Of what moral improprieties were many among the higher classes accused? 5, 1 through 5. How did Nehemiah treat the cause? Reformation of these abuses. 6 through 19. What was done by the hostile chiefs to hinder the work? 6, 1 through 10. What treachery manifested itself? How did this permanently prevent the carrying out of the enterprise? verses 12 through 19, give an account of the reorganization of the government. 7, 1 through 5, what follows. 6 through 73, what was the number, what public meeting took place, and for what purpose, who was the reader and expounder. 8, 1 through 8, how was the occasion celebrated. 9 through 12, what new festival was established. 13 through 18, what took place still later in the month. Chapter 9, verse 1 through 3, give some account of the exercises. What were some of the topics of the prayer offered? What covenant was made? 4 through 38. What were some of the provisions of the covenant? 10, 29 through 39. What arrangements were made for repeopling Jerusalem? Assignment of work. 11 and 12. What abuses and disorders were subsequently developed? 13, 1 through 5. Where was Nehemiah at this time? Verse 6. What did he do on his return? Verse 7 through 9. What other sins did he rebuke? Verses 10 through 32. Give a brief account of the subsequent history of the Jews to the time of Christ, contemporary events. See the introduction. And before we go on to the next section, let me ask you, so what was included and how was it included? What might that say that's not maybe being said? Or what might that make you figure out that's not being said? And what wasn't said? You know, what was excluded in even verse references?